Distance learning is not a new idea. In fact, it dates back nearly 300 years when students in the United States received weekly lessons through the mail. In countries such as Australia, England, and Switzerland, students who lived in areas with low populations and were geographically dispersed used different tools for their education. Tools such as radio and television, as well as the mail, were utilized. Unfortunately, when school systems across the United States and the world sent students home to help stop the spread of COVID-19 in March of 2020, many were entirely unprepared. For some systems, this was a nearly seamless transition. These systems already had plans in place for such factors as inclement weather. Before March of 2020, these digital learning days were meant to be short-term solutions for when students were unable to safely get to school or, for whatever reason, unable to safely attend school. Some systems were already one-to-one, while others expected students to provide their own computer for these days with a limited number of devices available for students to take home. Many of those without computers are left trying to navigate their learning management system on smartphones, assuming the content is compatible with smartphones, and that students live in an area where cell phone signal is strong enough to effectively view the content. Unfortunately, many students must also worry about the electricity to charge devices. Districts that already had plans in place for digital learning days had a limited number of hotspots available for students without internet access at home. These districts were also able to send buses to neighborhoods and apartment complexes to act as Wi Fi hotspots. Unfortunately, not all systems were in this position. Many systems were completely caught off guard and were entirely unprepared, whether it be due to lack of devices or lack of internet for students. These systems were sent scrambling to determine how to educate their students from a distance. Many students across the United States spent the last 10 or more weeks of the 2019-2020 school year learning from packets. Teachers had weekly meetings through such platforms as Zoom and Google Hangouts when possible, but many teachers had to rely on checking in on their students through telephone calls. This self-paced, self-guided format is a far cry from the education students receive when they have consistent access to a qualified teacher. And the lack of access to their teachers only widens the divide already seen between rural students and their suburban counterparts. The lack of devices is definitely an issue, but thankfully, through grants provided by the federal government, many rural school systems have been able to purchase laptops and/or tablets for their students in an effort to become one-to-one. School systems who were caught off guard in March of 2020 have worked to provide a professional development pertaining to online teaching for their teachers. It is extremely important for systems to provide this professional development for teachers because it is necessary for them to understand many students will need instruction on computer usage and skills, which many teachers falsely assume students already have. It is also important for teachers to understand the pedagogical recommendations for distant learning and how they differ from traditional classroom instruction. Even though many systems are determined to be prepared in the event students are unable to attend school in person, the fact remains there are still students who do not have access to the internet. Students may know how to access their online learning platform, but without access to reliable internet, this knowledge is useless. Students who do not have access to the internet are unable to participate in instruction to the same degree as their classmates who do have access. According to her article, Healing the Digital Divide During the COVID-19 Pandemic, Ana Paula Correa states of households with annual incomes below $30,000 and children between the ages of 6 and 17, 35% do not possess a high-speed internet connection. We must do better.